Sangha Sintu Mide Uvai Dogen Namadasila Jepa Sho Jetsulampa Kenamki Chukukala Kenze Chuzimti Chita Sambe Duje Zimana Sabi Chuki Chaba Aku.
Thank you very much.
Idam Gururana Mendola Ganiyataya. So we take few moments to watch our breath mindfully. Then we can try to have good intention. For example, the purpose of my life is not only, just being concerned with just myself or my well-being alone. Because that will be limiting our own potentials. Therefore, the purpose of my life is to be benefit not only myself, but all sentient beings, directly, indirectly, as much as we can. According to our own capacity and ability. And the more we develop the positive state of mind, such as to love, compassion, Bodhicitta mind, and wisdom. The more we are able to be benefit to others and oneself. The more enlightened, the more awakening we are able to become. The greater help and benefit that we can be to others and oneself. Therefore, I will try as much as I can to develop those positive state of minds. So I can be more benefit to oneself and others. And may us coming here together, listening, taking the refuge, or renewing, engaging discussions, may everything, all of these become cause and conditions to achieve our highest potential, the fully awakened state. In order to be greatest help and benefit to each and every sentient being. May we always be help and benefit to others, not just oneself. And even when we are unable to be greatest help, benefit all the time. May we never hurt and harm others, knowingly, intentionally. And I will try as much as I can to benefit and not to hurt and harm others. Okay. So refuge and Bodhicitta prayer. Which page number?
Yep. It's 28.
28. Okay. Sangha Chödam Soge Chonam Shanchu Padu Dharmi Kasushin Dagi Shrithe Gibe Sonam Yin Yola Benje Sangha Duvash Sangha Chödam Soge Chonam Shanchu Padu Dharmi Kasushin Dagi Shrithe Gibe Sonam Yin Yola Benje Sangha Duvash Sangha Chödam Soge Chonam Shanchu Padu Dharmi Kasushin Dagi Shrithe Gibe Sonam Dola Penche Sangha Duvash. Penche du Jeni Sone, Tawa Tanche Pangme Se, Tanpe Chöne Penche, Podam De La Cha Cha. So I think there is some who want to take a refuge, and then some who want to renew the refuge vow, and some others maybe who might be just interested to know, learn. So a refuge is the kind of the entering of the entrance or the gateway to the Dharma practice, to the Buddha's teaching and the practice, and therefore, whenever we do any kind of Buddhist practice, we always start with refuge. And the bodhicitta motivation, because it is whenever we do any practice that is, both sattva or mahayana practice, so then we always start with the bodhicitta. So therefore, the refuge and bodhicitta come at the very beginning of every practice meditations that we try to do. Of course, it doesn't have the same word that we recite. This is just one example of refuge and bodhicitta verse. We use it, but it doesn't have to always be this verse. You can have your own verse. You can have your own way of, but basically it's trying to have the refuge and bodhicitta, however you put it, whatever verse you use it. So then refuge is something that is, not totally new to us. Generally going for refuge. So many people go to refuge in different objects in their life all the time. To escape their problems, to release suffering and pain. Sometimes people go refuge to, substances, whether it's alcohol, whether it's a drug, different kind of drugs, whatever, to deal with their pain, sufferings, to escape or to release whatever pain and suffering that they might be going through. And the only way they can think of, or they can, to escape that pain and problem or to relieve that, then sometimes that becomes their refuge. That becomes their refuge. Certain people, they take refuge at a small corner of the room or small rooms, that is where they feel protected. In certain situations, in certain cases, in certain time in their life, maybe they're scared of being out, seeing others, because they are going through certain problems in their life. And when they go in that dark, small rooms, they feel protected. That is their refuge. They call for refuge in that. And so, of course, when we are ill, we go refuge to the doctors, anyone who can support us to cure when we have other problems. We go refuge to those who are expert to give us advice, solutions to fix the problems. So that is what something we do. Go to different refuge for different purpose, to solve different problems. To escape from different problem or to release from different problems. We go and go for refuge to different objects. Here, when we talk about refuge in Buddhism, about this, then, we have to whom we are going to refuge and why we go for refuge and how we go for refuge. Maybe we can try to understand a little bit from that point of view. To whom we go to refuge here, the object of refuge is Buddha Dharma Sangha as one of the, Buddha said, material Buddha, ornament of the sutra. The Buddha Dharma Sangha is the object of refuge for those who aspire or wish for liberations. So in that, it explains two things: the object of the refuge and why we go for refuge. The Buddha Dharma Sangha is the object of the refuge. And the reason we go for refuge is to liberate or to escape or to free from the samsara and to achieve liberation through lasting freedom or liberations or nirvana, So that is, so we go refuge to Buddha Dharma not to solve temporary problems, We don't go for refuge to Buddha Dharma Sangha because I'm having some problem in my relationship. Maybe he might be able to fix it. Or I'm having some health issue. Maybe he might be able to fix that problem for me, the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Or I'm having some financial problem. If I go refuge with Dhamma Sangha, he will be able to fix that problem for me. That is not the right intention, motivation to go for refuge. The motivations should be much more higher than that. The reason to go for refuge is because we see as long as we are in samsara, as long as we are never free from the sufferings. We are never free from the suffering, all the time or permanently. And we are in samsara as long as we are still under the contaminated karma and the delusions. So the purpose of taking refuge is to liberate from the delusion and the contaminated actions or the karma and the result of such delusion and karma, that is the samsara and the suffering and problem of the samsara. For that very reason, then we go refuge with the Dhamma Sangha. For small problems, we don't need to go for refuge for them. Sometimes we miss that part. Why we go for refuge. Sometimes we miss that part, why we go for refuge. And feel like we go for refuge and they should be fixing all our temporary problems. And when we feel that sometime, when that has not been done, then we started to doubt or have all kinds of thoughts. And that is because from the very beginning, we went to refuge with a mistaken mind. To fix temporary problems, we don't need to go refuge to Buddha Dhamma Sangha. When we are sick, doctors and others who are expert in that, they can help us to fix their problems. And whatever other small problems that we have in our life. But when it comes to the delusions, karma, the doctor cannot fix that. Someone who is very expert in financial cannot fix that, our problem, overcoming our delusions. someone who is very powerful, whatever, or, in whatever different fields, expertise, they cannot help to fix this problem of overcoming the delusions. And for that, then the object of refuge need to be the Buddha Dharma Sangha for that purpose. So, I don't need to go so details, what the Buddha Dharma Sanghas are, just to kind of, Buddha is someone who has overcome, anyone, who has overcome all the obscurations, all the delusions and obscurations, and someone who have actualized their highest potential, who have actualized all, perfected and completed all the positive qualities, highest level of love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, wisdom, skillful means, someone who understands exactly the predispositions of each and every sentient beings individually, their needs, their mental state. So that's the Buddha. So therefore we go for refuge to Buddha because he or she has overcome all the delusion, all the obscuration themselves, have developed all the positive inner qualities. So through their own direct experience, they can show us how to do that. They can show us the path how to do that, having done themselves. Someone who have not done that themselves, they cannot guide us with a direct experience how to do that. But someone who has been able to themselves and gone themselves, and through their own direct experience, they will be able to guide us, show us the way to do it, instruction exactly, point by point, how to do it. So, since they themselves have overcome all the delusion, obscuration, they have cultivated all the positive qualities, and with their experience, they know how to do that. They are able to show the path, how to do that. That is the path. The path is, and so how to do that correctly in the right way. So that is why we go for refuge of Buddha. And also, Buddha is someone who has unconditional, impartial compassion. So therefore, Buddha is the right object to go for refuge. Buddha is someone who has equal and same love, compassion, whether you believe in him or not, whether you praise him or whether you criticize him, whether you make offering or whether you steal his things. From his love, compassion, equal. It's not like his love is more if you believe in him, and his love is less if you don't believe in him. It's not that his love is more if you praise him and make offerings, be nice to him, or less if someone criticizes him, the Buddha, or if someone try to hurt and harm him, his love is equal. And so therefore, again, his love, compassion, unconditional, impartial. And his incredible skillful means, by knowing exactly the needs of individual sentient beings and to be able to show the path according to their understanding, their needs. And that's very important. We cannot teach everyone same way. Not everyone can understand same way. Different minds, so, and they need to be treated differently and show the path differently, so you need that skillful means, and the Buddha's possessing all of that, and therefore, the more suitable object of refuge. And Dharma is the wisdom and the compassion of the Buddha, especially the wisdom itself. The wisdom relies on the ultimate reality directly. That is the Dharma, the actual ultimate Dharma. And the scriptures that show how to cultivate such true love, compassion, and the wisdom is a relative Dharma. The actual ultimate Dharma is that wisdom and compassion. So we go for refuge to that, because through that wisdom and compassion, then we can overcome all the delusion, all the obscurations. If we can cultivate that wisdom and compassion, then we can overcome. Through the compassion, the bodhicitta mind, we can overcome the selfish attitude. Through the wisdom, we can overcome all the delusion, and the very root of all the delusion, ignorance. And through having coming that, the selfish attitude and the ignorance and all the other delusions that arise from those delusions, then you are able to free yourself from all the delusion, all the obscurations, and the karma that is created with delusions, and painful experience of those karma. So again, one can free from all of that. And so therefore, that's the true refuge. That is the true refuge, and we'll go refuge with that. That wisdom and compassion. In Sangha, ultimate Sangha are the Arya Sangha, those any beings who have actualized that wisdom within themselves are the Arya Sangha. Anyone who have developed that wisdom relies on the ultimate truth or emptiness directly, then they are the Arya Sangha. Those who are on the path and who have developed that wisdom, they are the Arya Sangha. And again, since they have developed that ultimate Dharma within themselves, so they can be very helpful, supportive, inspirations for us to help to how to develop that wisdom within ourselves, just like that they have been able to develop. And then, relatively, any kind of community that there is, full ordination and the lay practitioners who have the lay vows, then that community is relative Sangha. And again, such community is the one because it's support in our practice. Sometimes we are uninspired, become lazy, and through the Sangha community, it can inspire us, help us, Sometimes when we have some doubt or some misunderstanding through discussions, through interacting with the Sangha members, maybe we might be able to clear some of the doubt, clear some of the misunderstandings, encouraging each other, supporting each other. Such community is important. Especially for us when we are still on the not strong practice in our path, when by ourselves, it's hard to inspire ourselves. But when we are in the group, in community, then that can help to give more inspiration and so forth. So that is the Sangha. So those are the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, okay? So that is the objects of refuge. And also we talk about the reason why we go for refuge. The reason we go for refuge is so that we want to free from all the delusions. We want to get rid of all these delusions. And the contaminated action of karma created by those delusions, which are the root of our suffering and problems. And not only for ourselves, as a Mahayana refuge, not only, we go to refuge Buddha Dharma Sangha in order to release ourselves from the delusion and karma ourselves, but in order to release not only ourselves, all sentient beings from all their sufferings and the cause of their suffering, the karma and the delusions. So with that compassionate mind, we go for refuge. So that is the Mahayana refuge. It's not always, you don't go for refuge just for yourself, but in order to free not only yourself, but in order to free each and every sentient beings from all their delusions and all their karma. So that is the so we identify the objects, we kind of recognize the reason, the motivations, the intentions, why we go for refuge, the purpose of going for refuge, the reason to go for refuge, with what purpose, with what reasoning, why we go for refuge, Then how to go for refuge? How to go for refuge? And as again, Maitreya explained, he explained with the examples, it's like when you are sick, okay? When you are sick, you go refuge to the doctors who can diagnose your problem correctly and who can prescribe you the right treatments in order to cure your illness. And also you go refuge to the treatment itself, whatever medicine, whatever treatment that is prescribed by the doctors correctly. Of course, it will be different. Okay, so then the medicine or whatever treatment or medicine is the actual cure or refuge, because that is the one actually can cure your illness. And it is that Dharma is the actual medicine. The Dharma, the wisdom, as we mentioned, the wisdom and the compassion is the actual cure. Okay, so Dharma is like the medicine, the actual cure, the actual refuge. And Sangha is like, the assistance, So when you're taking a treatment, whatever treatment, then, the nurse or assistant, any other form of assistant that they help us to take, whatever we need to do as prescribed by the doctors, how much we need to take, when to take, what to do. So then there is the assistants who will, remind us, who will come and help us to do that. In the same way, Sangha is that, help us, support us, So therefore, we go refuge by seeing the Buddha like the doctor. We go refuge to the Dharma by seeing is the actual cure. And then we go for refuge to the Sangha as though the assistance on our spiritual path. So that is how we go for refuge, how we take refuge, by understanding that as method. And we try to see ourselves like patients having a problem with these delusional problems. So we have these delusional problems. Of course, if someone says you are delusional, we will be very upset. But I guess when we think we are delusional, maybe we might be able to take it more easy. But the fact and reality is, yes, we do have a delusional problem. We have anger, attachment, ignorance, jealousy. And that is one of the big problems in us. And so seeing oneself as the patient, and then seeing the Buddha as the doctor who can prescribe exactly what your problem is, the correct, to be able to prescribe the correct treatment or method to cure from that illness of the delusions. And the Dharma is the medicines, and the Sangha as the assistants, nurse, and so forth. But with that understanding, recognition, and we try to. Also, sometimes you see in certain others teachings, seeing the Buddhas as the teachers, who show us the path, who guide us, who show us through their teaching, instruction, advice, who show us how to achieve the nirvana, how to overcome the delusions, and then the actual path, the actual cure is the Dharma, those spiritual realizations or spiritual experiences, and especially love and compassion, and the wisdom, through that, like the actual cure, the medicine. The actual path, that is the path. The path is that wisdom and the compassion. And Sangha is those who support us on the path. How to be on the path, how to enter the path, and how to continue on the path, so that they support in different ways. So when we go for refuge to the Dharma, then the way we go to refuge to the Dharma is the wish to actualize that Dharma within ourselves. The way we go refuge to the Dharma is the wish to actualize that Dharma within ourselves. the wisdom and the compassion within ourselves. And to the Buddha, by seeing, he's like a teacher, the doctors who can show us how to do that. And then to the Sangha, by knowing and with understanding that they will be able to help us to how to actualize that Dharma within ourselves. And so that is how we go refuge to the Buddha Dharma Sangha, that all that can support us on the path to overcome the delusions and to achieve liberations for oneself and all sentient beings. So that is a little bit the refuge, okay? Without going so much in details. And then, the refuge ceremony itself is quite simple. The formal kind of ceremony itself is a simple. It is kind of repeating 3 times, that I go for refuge to Buddha Dharma Sanghas, basically. Of course, there's longer version of that, but basically that is what. But most important, the refuge has to come from your heart, from your mind. If it doesn't come from your heart, your mind, this ceremony means nothing. If it is come from your heart, then of course there is some meaning in this ceremony. So this ceremony is just a way to help you to feel that, feel that and take refuge from your heart to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and so that is, so you really, it has to come from your heart, from depth of your heart. So normally, there is options, we offer, refuge ceremonies, and then also lay vows. If people are interested in the lay vows, it's different from the refuge ceremony itself. Okay, the lay vows, there are 5 lay vows, and if people feel ready to take all 5, you can take all of them. If you feel you are not ready to all 5 now, but you are only ready for 4, one can take 4. If you feel I'm not ready for 4, I'm ready only for 3, 3, 2, 1. And when you feel ready to take more, then you can take again in the future as well. From other teachers, when you get opportunity, so that's, and then the 5 lay vows are not killing, and especially killing of human beings, like the root vows. Okay. When you kill human beings, then you break the root vows. So not killing, and in terms of that, not killing the man, the root is the human beings. Not stealing, not getting a sexual misconduct. That means having sex with someone's wife, husbands, who have, families, and, because we destroy others' families and maybe your own families, so it harms so many beings, so many others, mainly that, so sexual misconduct, lying, and here lying is what we call big lie, the root vow. The big lie is spiritual lie. So telling you have certain spiritual experience or realization when you don't have, directly, indirectly, saying that you have realization of emptiness or bodhicitta or whatever when you don't have, knowingly deceiving others to do that kind of spiritual lies. That is what we call big lie. And that is the main here, not lying, the root vow. And then the 5th one is, giving up alcohol or drugs, intoxicants, whatever. By nature itself, they are not bad by itself. But then when we get intoxicated, then it brings a lot of problems. When you get drunk, then you do all kinds of things. You become more violent, aggressive. You lose your mind and do things. Recently I was, watching a news. There was incident of so many times now in one of the Indian airline, where people getting drunk and peeing others people. There were incidents of quite few of them. So that is what happens. When you get drunk, you are not aware what you are doing. This is a very small example. That is one story. I don't know whether it's whether it really happened or it's just a metaphor and example. But there was a monk who have taken a vow, the vow of celibacy. And then someone that he was visiting village for alms, for the food. While he was going there, then someone in the village, got attracted to him, attached to him. And one time when he was there, she wanted him to sleep with her, and he said, no, I can't do that, but I think she was very attached to him, very attracted and attached to him. So she couldn't stop her desire, and then another time, she was really forcing him to do that, and he wouldn't. And then she gave her 3 options, either, I think there was one goat, either kill the goat or sleep with her or drink. And he thought everything, killing is bad, sleeping is against my vows, and that drinking seems least harmful. He drank, he drank it, and he drank, and then he did everything. At least that is the story. But it can happen like that. It can happen like that. So for that purpose, for that reasons, to protect oneself and others, then that is why giving up those are encouraged, and part of that vows, And I think, also, it can be also good example to the families and to the world. Less people drink it. There's less need of that substance, and there's less problem in the world because of that. There's less demand, means there's less product. Less products means less people are exposed to those. That means there will be less problem because of that. In our world, there are so many problems because of those things, in so many different levels. A lot of domestic violence happen because of a lot of time from those kind of, by using alcohol and drug, especially in India and Nepal, especially those villages, most of the domestic violence are from drinking, and it is a big problem, So anyway, So those are the 5 vows. If you are kind of interested, then you can take it. If you don't feel ready, not interested, also that's fine. You don't have to take it. So then, in terms of the refuge, set of the precepts, mainly they are treating to avoid and treat practice or things to practice or adapt, and so by taking refuge to the Buddha, then you don't, treat any image that represent the Buddha as like an ordinary object disrespectfully, So that could be Buddha's statues, it could be thanga, painting, image, whatever that is, by taking refuge to the Dharma, what you try to avoid is harming others intentionally, knowingly, intentionally trying to avoid harming others. And then, having taken refuge to the Sangha, what you try to avoid is, try to avoid being physically too close, especially when you feel, someone is creating obstacle on your path, influencing you negative on your path. While you might want to keep, in your heart with love, compassion, but because of being physically too close, you might get too much negative influence. And because at the moment, our practice is not strong and we could be easily influenced. And so therefore it is better to keep distant sometimes. So that is what. And in terms of what we need to practice is, I've been taking refuge. So that is in terms of Sangha, the last one. So then, you want to be surrounded by, people that is more supportive, physically, I mean, close, more supportive in your path, so that you don't lose your path. And if possible, and then in some of the practice that we need to engage, I've been taking refuge to the Buddha, we regard everything that represents the Buddha, statues, thanga, image, as it is the actual Buddha. Treat them respectfully as it is the actual Buddha. And if we actually can see real Buddha inside that, you can receive the blessing of real Buddha. Buddha is everywhere, everywhere, Buddha's mind is everywhere. Wherever Buddha's mind is, there is Buddha. And so therefore, if only we can see it, only we can feel it, the problem is that we're unable to see and feel that at the moment due to certain obscurations. So anyway, trying to treat them respectfully as though it is the actual Buddha. And same thing, having taken refuge to the Dharma, anything that represents the Dharma, any books, anything that is the teaching of the Buddhas, we treat them respectfully, as though you will treat the actual Dharma, the wisdom and compassion very respectfully. You will hold them highly, that wisdom, that compassion. You will regard very highly and respectfully. Same way, any teachings that help us for how to cultivate those wisdom and compassion, that represent that, and we treat them respectfully. And then in terms of Sangha, any things that represent the Sangha, again, we try to hold them highly, treating them respectfully. Even if it is even just the rope itself, for example, even there is no real Sangha, but even just the rope itself, by seeing that we treat them respectfully as though it is the actual Sangha. So that is what we try to avoid three things and practice the. And then, of course, there are some general advices, that if we can apply, is wonderful, good. Trying to remember the Buddha Dharma Sangha every day, and if possible, trying to do prostration 3 in the morning, 3 in the evenings. Whether you do full prostration, half prostration, or just bowing, or bowing in your mind, Sometimes maybe, you will feel uncomfortable because of your environment. You don't want to disturb someone by showing certain act that can disturb their mind. So then you keep in your mind, you can bow down in your mind. But if that is not the case, then, we prostrate and bow down 3 times, and then go for refuge to the Buddha Dharma Sangha, So again, how, we refuge 3 in the morning, 3 in the evening, and 3 in the morning means, just when you are just like what we teach here, whether you recite that verse or you can recite, I go refuge to the Buddha, I go refuge to the Dharma, I go refuge to the Sangha, 3 times. And then, whenever we eat and drink, if possible, it's good to make offering to the Buddha Dharma Sangha, remembering them, making offering to them, and then take it as a blessing from them. Whatever we eat, whatever we drink. And I think those are wonderful practice. Instead of just like eating and drinking very quickly by ourselves, at least think of the Buddha Dharma Sangha first. At least have the thought of Buddha Dharma Sangha, and then whether you recite the prayers of offerings or you just in your mind, you can imagine, visualize making that offerings and even multiply that offering many and think of making offering to them, and then they give you as a blessing, and then you take it. So trying to, if we can do that, is wonderful. So each time then when we do that, then we are connecting the Buddha Dharma Sangha all the time. The moment you remember them, you are connecting Buddha Dharma Sangha. Each time you drink, you are connecting Buddha Dharma Sangha. Each time you eat, you're connecting Buddha Dharma Sangha. And when you connect with the Buddha Dharma Sangha, you are connecting with your own mind, your own practice, your own mind. So just thinking of Buddha Dharma Sangha and making offering, whether you recite the verse or not, doesn't matter, but doing that, then, you are already doing some meditation, some form of meditation, some form of practice. That itself is a practice of refuge. And whenever we engage into any kind of, activities, any projects, especially bigger project activities, and, we try to remember the Buddha Dharma Sanghas, and then, asking for their blessings, guidance, inspirations, and same with whenever we do any practice, at the beginning of our practice, through going refuge to Buddha Dharma Sangha, we make a heartfelt request to inspire us to give us blessing, inspirations, guidance, instructions, And sometimes instruction, guidance can come in different forms, Sometimes in meditation we can have, manifest in meditation. Sometimes while you are sleeping, you could have manifest those guidance, instructions. Sometimes you are walking, you could get that, or while eating, so they can come in a different form, in different ways. And we need all the blessing, all the help, all the blessing, all the inspirations to be on this path. And the path here, again, as I said, is, is basically to be a better person, to be beneficial and help to others, at least, not to hurt and harm others intentionally. Of course, unintentionally, because we're unenlightened, sometimes you hurt and harm. Not because intentionally. Sometimes even with the best intention to help someone, sometimes it hurts someone instead of being helpful. And that is not because of our intentions, but it's because of not having the wisdom and skillful means, not knowing how to do that. So, the main is not to hurt and harm intentionally, knowingly, that one, we can make effort to do that. Okay, I think that is so.
You actually have a question from you.
Yes, please.
About the vows, would you consider gambling stealing?
Gambling, stealing. I don't know, definitely Buddhas also have, Buddha has also discouraged from gambling as well. Just like alcohol, gambling can be big problems to you, your families, and all of that, So definitely, again, that is also one of the things Buddha also discourage or advise you not to gamble. But it is stealing. I guess it wouldn't be stealing, I guess. I don't know. I think maybe it's illegal, so maybe it might not be stealing. But I guess, but definitely is not is discouraged, just like alcohol, source of problem to yourself, to family, and the society in general. So, but as I mentioned, okay. Stealing means something you take that was not given to you. Something that doesn't belong to you from someone that you take it that was not given to you forcefully or kind of cunningly in whatever way, So I think gambling will be slightly different from the stealing itself. But so it's not a stealing itself, but also you can take on not gambling. if you know. And sometimes for certain people, it helps to stop. There's something they have not been, they have struggles to, something they want to stop, but they have been struggled to stop. And then after they take the vows, and then many of them has been successful to stop from doing that. Will everyone be successful? Not necessarily. It depends individually. And then again, sometimes we break, we renew it, and we try all our best not to do again. And the way I see the vows, whether it's a lay vows or ordained vows, monks, nuns vows, or whether it's a bodhisattva's vows, or whether it's tantric vows. The way I see, understand is the vows are a method to protect ourselves, to get better. If you are in a position where you will not break them anyway, you don't need to take vows. Buddha doesn't need to take those vows because he will never do that. High level bodhisattvas, they don't need to take those vows. Why would they take those vows? They don't need to do that. But those who are unable to do that, they have to take vows because it's a protection. Because of the vows, and you become more mindful, for more effort not to engage in them. And then slowly, that's how we improve. Slowly. Sometimes we think, I will only take it if I reach a point where I will never break it. Okay? Then probably you have to achieve enlightenment or at a high level of that. And by the time you reach that, you don't need a vow. And so the very purpose of these vows is to protect. Many of those rules the Buddha makes vows, whether it's a lay or the monks, he didn't start with all these vows. Some monks, nuns go and engage, do something bad, and then there is a complaint, people get upset, in the society community, and they come and report to Buddha, and Buddha said, next time, no, you cannot do that. And then that becomes vows. So now they don't do that, but then do some other things that upset and disturb in other things. And again, there is complaint and this and that. And then there comes, and then again, there is new rules. That's how, and that is same in also a lot of the law that we make in this is that it doesn't come from the very beginning. There's a law, something happens, and then there's a big problem. And then in order to solve that problem, it doesn't repeat again, and people doesn't get hurt, then you come with new law. And similarly, that's how it is. That's how a lot of those vows come. It's a method to protect oneself and others. Okay. Yeah. Do we have some break, or what was the?
We could have a stretch and break and come back for the ceremony.
Yeah. And any cautions? Yeah, before ceremony here. Any cautions?
I have one question.
Yes, please.
So, in regards to the fifth precept on the intoxicants, sometimes intoxicating substances are given to us as medicine, maybe painkillers, maybe things like that. Are these things we should avoid?
No, I think that shouldn't be problems. Also it depends on how you take it. There's part of medicines, a lot of those things. I think, that is, I don't think that's breaking the vows. Also, we have to understand, just as I said, behind. What is behind? Why that have vows? When you get drunk, then that becomes a problem. Alcohol itself not the problem itself. It's not the alcohol, it's really, but then when we misuse it, then it becomes a problem for a lot. And so therefore, and even though we don't want to misuse it, first you start small thing and then you get addicted to that and then you become in a problem. So it's better not to start if possible and completely, so that is one of the things. So I think in terms of the medicine, I don't think that would be part of the breaking that vows, Even in terms of taking the vows of not drinking, like certain teachers also make it exceptional, different. Some teachers you don't drink at all. Some teachers, this is how you take, when you take it, I will not drink more than 1 glass a day. Or I will not. There is a stories of His Holiness share, I think in Tibet, there was one person, who was very devoted to the Ling Rinpoche, the previous Ling Rinpoche, who was one of Lama, His Holiness teachers, and very devoted and, and kind of follow his advices. And then I think he had problem with the drinking, So Ling Rinpoche asked, you should stop drinking, because that was a problem he has. And he said, please, I can't stop that one. I can do all, but that one I cannot stop, Very respectfully, he said, and I cannot take that vows, very respectfully, I cannot take that vows. And then I think but you can take vows that way you don't drink more than one glass a day. And so he offered that way. So by not drinking more than one, he doesn't get in problem as much,
In Australia, though, I mean, we're a drinking culture. We're a big drinking culture. And so, you might go to somebody's wedding or birthday or something, and they're all passing out alcohol, and if you don't take one, you can be seen as, I'm a drinker, and come across as high and mighty. I mean, is that a situation like that, or like to take some alcohol and, yes, cheers, and maybe just have a little sip or something like that? How about those sorts of situations?
I think, we have, if we see problem in that culture, we have to change that culture. And we have to stay. Even you don't fit in that immediately, but someone has to take actions. And then there will be more people who follow that. That is how we change it, vegetarians. In every culture, you can't find a vegetarian maybe 30, 40 years ago, or many part of the countries. But then there are some people who start vegetarian, even their struggles, even though they feel something, everyone thinks, why are you making it so difficult, Because they have to cook and they don't know how to cook. But still they follow. And now there's more and more vegetarian you find in every restaurant you go, in every part of the world. And then there are the vegans. When they started, it seems like they were making it difficult for everyone, but, and that is how, and I think if we see there's a problem in culture, like too much drinking, then if we keep on saying, oh, because it's culture, that's therefore I fault, then it will never change. There have been certain people, even, and so then other people see, oh, he does that. Maybe even I don't drink, I shouldn't feel bad, I don't have to feel that I feed it and I have to do everything others does, because you see someone doing that, it gives you some inspiration or some examples. And so I think maybe that is the way how we change it. So, but of course, in some cases, if people still have difficulty, then again, just as like maybe you will not drink more than half glass or 1 glass a day or something. So it depends on when you take the vows, how you take it, Yes, please.
There's a lot of non-alcoholic wine and champagne and beer now, which actually tastes really nice. There's an American one that actually won a prize in the alcoholic section, was a non-alcoholic wine. So, and they're very, very popular. So, I asked for it. I'll go up to the bar and mention, do you have it? They don't. I give them a little talk on how popular and how trendy it is now.
Okay, yeah. So there it is, yeah, I think we have, at the very beginning, it required efforts, And sometimes people might even complain, why you make things difficult, but that's how you change. That's how you change, that is how you change other people's mind perceptions. That's how you change certain culture, especially if you see that culture is not a good one. There are good sides in every culture and there are bad sides in every culture. And that is what His Holiness also advised, not all the Tibetan cultures are good side. There are certain cultures that is not so good, and that needs to change and adapt it. And there are really, really good side of Tibetan culture that need to be kept and maintained, and and I think that is same with every cultures. Yeah. Yes, please.
The first one in about killing, when it comes to insects, when you're invaded, so like lots of ants, your advice on that?
Yeah, this is always problem. I think also with the gardening and everything, it is always a problem. It is, but as I mentioned at the very beginning, the vows of not killing here manage the human beings. And again, it also depends on how you take it. The man is just like the lying, is the root vow is really actually not all the lying, small lyings, but it's mainly the spiritual lying. In terms of also killing, the root vow is killing the human beings. But of course, we try all our best not to kill any life, being any life is precious. So then, we have to, my advice is always, we always have to try to find a way to keep away whatever insect. If there is a way to, all different options there might be, sometimes it takes time because we have to do more research and find, is there any way that we can keep away without killing them, And sometimes you might be able to find a way to keep them away without having to take them down. Or maybe sometimes you might not be able to find it, then you have to make hard decisions. Sometimes it's not going to be so easy decisions. And then individually we have to make our own decisions. And if we do decide to take it down because, whatever, then, again, being mindful of life, and doing some prayers, reciting the mantras, Om Mani Padme Hum, Medicine Buddha mantras, other mantras, dedicating, praying, so taking those in considerations is better than nothing, or better than just, being careless. But of course, we try to be more conscious and put more effort how to avoid that. But I think, some cases it become not easy, not, avoid. And then, you have to, take the decisions. But being respectful of the life and doing some prayers is helpful, I think. Yeah, I think maybe that's all I can kind of. And again, also when we take the vows, as I mentioned, it depends on how we take the vows, even in terms of drinking part, how you take the vows, and lying. all of that, but yeah, the root vow is not killing human beings. So when you kill human beings, then you break the vow from the very root. Yeah. Okay, I think maybe that's all kind of, I think. Yes.
Andrew online is asking if you don't have a teacher, can we take a member of the Sangha as well?
Well, one had to investigate, analyze thoroughly, and if you feel that he or she is, suitable, then of course there's no problems, whoever he or she might be, but you have to know what the teacher's qualities, responsibility, and then you as a disciple or student, what are your qualities, your maybe it might be different, maybe teacher and guru might be sense, but definitely, I'm more talking from the guru point of view. Yeah. So I think to get advice, and as a teachers, I think should be okay. Of course, once you take someone as teacher, then you have to respect in that way too. You create certain particular relationship, and you have to treat that in that way, and not take it too easily and treat it just like a normal, any kind of normal friendship or like that. Other than that, I think you should be definitely okay. And then and then I think there was interest of taking online, and I was asked, and I said it should be okay, when someone cannot find teachers or persons who give that in around your area in that time, or but you can take it now, but it would be nice in the future when there is opportunity to take in persons too. So that would be my kind of suggestion, advice. Yeah. Yes, please.
I've heard it said that taking refuge is like showing compassion for yourself.
Mhm.
A statement like that.
In a way, yes, it is. You take refuge because you want to improve yourself. You want to be better persons, and that being compassion, taking care of yourself. Instead of not caring about yourself, you care about yourself, that you want to be a better person, more kind, more compassionate. And so indirectly, in a way, then it is a sense of that, it's a sense of caring about yourself, not all the others, but yourself as well. Yeah. So yeah, we will have a 10 minutes kind of to stretch. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we start with the intention, motivations. So again, first try to quiet your mind by watching the breath mindfully for a few moments. Then we can try to generate a good intention. Maybe we can think, contemplate. For example, like how fortunate and lucky I am to have this precious human life. With full of potential, even though sometimes it's not easy. Therefore, I must not waste this incredible opportunity and the potential. And make my life meaningful. And the way to make our life meaningful to engage in the Dharma practice that can help us to reduce those negative thoughts, emotions, and to develop and increase those positive thoughts and emotions. So that we can find more peace, happiness, joy in our own life, as well as to be more help, more benefit, more kind, compassion to others. And not only we need to practice, I need to practice the Dharma. I need to practice from today, now, as much as possible. Because we never know how many hours, day, weeks, months we have in this life, in this world. And through the practice of Dharma, in order to liberate all the suffering and cause of suffering of oneself and all sentient beings. And to achieve ultimate happiness of fully enlightened state. And to lead all sentient beings to that enlightened state. I'm going to take the refuge and the lay vows or renew them, or just refuge. And may this taking refuge give me some inspirations to practice the Dharma more strongly and to become a better person with more kindness, more compassion. And may taking the refuge and the vows may they become cause and conditions to achieve fully awakened state, so we can be greatest benefit and help to each and every sentient beings. In order to achieve the fully enlightenment or fully enlightened state, in order to be more benefit and help, or greater benefit and help to others and oneself. And need to engage in the path. And practice. For that purpose, I'm going to take directions and vows or renew them. Okay, so then, you can make 3 frustrations if you don't have any problem with knee or space. Otherwise, to the image of the Buddha, think that Buddha himself is here, surrounded by all the bodhisattvas, all the other enlightened beings, and for that ceremony, you make 3 frustrations. And then 100,000 prostration for the to me for the ceremony for the ceremony 3 times. Then you can sit down. Normally, we try to, kneel, but I think it's okay. You don't have to kneel. Yeah, something.
Okay, Krishna. So I know it's just the cameras now.
Oh,
Could you- Is
yeah,
that okay?
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that side?
yeah. Yeah.
You really take them into it. That's fine. It's nice.
So again, we can try to generate a strong inspirations, wishes, or determination to free ourselves from all the delusions, all the obscurations. By understanding and seeing they are the root of our problem and suffering. Our own attachments, never satisfying mind of attachments, our own anger, our own ignorance, the real enemy. These are the one that really hurts and harm us all the time. With that understanding, then there's a strong wish to free from those state of minds. For that very purpose and reason, that I am going to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. To cure the illness of those delusions. To be healed from those delusions. And having the trust in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha in order to us to cure and heal from those delusions. So with that strong wish to free from the delusion, and with a strong trust and confidence in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha to help us to do that. So then we go for refuge, then you repeat after me. Okay? And again, we try to feel the words as much as possible. So ordain one, you can repeat. Ordain one, please pay attention to me. I, who am called, for as long as I live, will take refuge in the Buddha, the Supreme Protector and Teacher. Will take refuge in the Dharma, the supreme cessation of defilements. Will take refuge in the Sangha, the supreme community. Ordain one, please hold me as an upasaka or upasaki for those women's upasaki, upasaka for the men. So it means those who hold the vows. And, hold me as upasaka or upasaki, holding the three refuges. So that is first repetition. For the second repetition, again, try to think of what the Buddha is in your mind. Someone, who has overcome all the obscuration, someone who has perfected and completed all the positive qualities. Someone who has unconditional, impartial love, compassion for everyone. Someone who has the highest level of wisdom, skillful means. So with that understanding, cultivate a strong trust, confidence. As a teacher, as a guidance, as a doctor. And then, understand that our own compassion and wisdom is the things that can heal and cure, the actual cure, the actual medicine, the actual treatment, the actual refuge. And generate a strong wish to actualize that wisdom and compassion within our mind. Just like the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha in our mind stream. Then think of the Sangha, those who have Arya Sangha, who have actualized that wisdom within their mind. And the supreme community, that are aspiring, those who are on the path, in the same path. With the same goal. And try to again cultivate a strong trust, confidence in them as someone that can inspire, support us on our path. So with that strong confidence, trust, and faith in Buddha Dharma Sangha to help us, to support us, to overcome the delusions, obscurations. We go for refuge again from our heart. From now, as long as we live, Okay, then again, repeating for the second time. Ordained one, please pay attention to me. I who am called, for as long as I live, will take refuge in the Buddha, the supreme protector and teacher. Will take refuge in the Dharma, the supreme cessation of defilements. Will take refuge in the Sangha, the supreme community. Ordained one, please hold me as an Upasaka, Saki, holding the three refuges. Again, try to generate a strong wish to liberate oneself and all sentient beings from all the contaminated karma, all the delusions, the root of all the suffering problem. And having the strong trust, confidence, and faith in Buddha Dharma Sangha to support us, to help us to liberate from all the delusions and contaminated karma of oneself and all sentient beings. And generate strong wish, strong determinations to keep the Buddha Dharma Sangha in our heart all the time. Not only when things are easy, but also in difficult times, or vice versa. No matter where we are, no matter what our situation is and conditions are, no matter with whom we are, wherever we are, I will always hold in my heart, keep in my heart all the time. Never separate them from my heart. So with that strong determinations, then repeat for the third time. Master, please pay attention to me. I am called for as long as I live, will take refuge in the Buddha, the Supreme Protector and Teacher, will take refuge in the Dharma, the supreme cessations of the defilements, and will take refuge in the Sangha, the supreme community. Master, please hold me and Osaka, holding three refuges. So this is where you imagine and visualize and think. You receive the refuge vows. It's very important to think and feel that you receive the refuge vows. And if you're taking how many vows, if you're taking the vows, then receiving those vows as well. And if you are renewing, feel that all your refuge and vows have been renewed. So then there's one repetitions for the vows. So again, try to generate strong intentions, determinations to keep those vows, the lay vows if you are taking or renewing, to keep them as pure as the previous Arhat or the four destroyers have done. And so with that strong determination, I can repeat after me. For those who are taking the vows or renewing them. Master, please pay attention to me. Just as the Arya four destroyers have refrained for as long as they lived from taking the lives of others, so shall I, who am called, from now on, as long as I live, refrain from and abandon taking the lives of others. I will train in, complete, and perform the advice of those Arya four destroyers by following their example. So then we repeat the next four vows. Just as the Arya four destroyers have abandoned stealing other possessions, engaged in sexual misconduct, speaking false words, and drinking alcohol, and taking intoxicants, which are catalyst activities that make one confused. So shall I, who am called, for as long as I live, will refrain from stealing other possessions, engaging in sexual misconduct,
engaging in sexual misconduct,
speaking false words,
speaking false words,
and drinking alcohol, taking intoxicants,
taking intoxicants,
which are careless activities
careless activities
that make one confused.
that make one
I will train in,
I will train,
complete,
complete,
and perform the advices
and perform the advices
of those area 4 destroyers
of those area 4 destroyers
by following their example.
by following their example.
Then I say Lexo, then you say, no, I say Tabino, then you say Lexo. It means, this is the method, and the answer is Lexo means excellent. Tabino, Lexo, okay. So then we do that is the ceremony itself, So we take few moments to rejoice. So first we try to rejoice for having this intention to take the refuge and lay vows, or just refuge vows. Making the intentions to take vows, refuge ceremony, so we can be a better person, more kind, more compassion. It's wonderful. Have such positive thoughts. It's hard to have all positive thought all the time. So to have this positive thought, not only we have positive thought, actually we make these commitments by taking them. Just making commitment to become a better person, more kind, more compassion by following the path. It's incredible, wonderful commitment. Regardless of how successful we are or not. Just making that commitment is incredible. Wonderful. And having taken the vows and the refuge and the vows is so rare. Or renewing them is so rare. We don't have the opportunity and do that all the time. So wonderful, so meaningful. And we also dedicate for all others who have had such similar or other virtuous thoughts, mind. And who have made commitments, regardless how successful they are or not, but it required a lot of courage and brave to make those commitments. And to have such courageous and brave commitments, wonderful. To follow the path, to become more kind, compassion, to be more benefit, help, and not to hurt others and oneself. regardless of how successful they are in oneself, at least making the effort, at least trying to be a better, more kind, compassion, that itself is incredible, wonderful, very rare. It's like, finding a precious jewel in the garbage. Making our life and others' life meaningful from this samsaric rebirth. So wonderful. Then we dedicate all the virtues that oneself and others have created, such as all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Arhat, and those on the path and all ordinary beings, and oneself and others who are empty from their own side. All the virtues created by oneself and others who are empty from his own side. May I be able to achieve, may I, which empty from his own side, achieve fully enlightenment, which empty from his own side. And liberate all sentient beings with that enlightenment by myself alone. Jevadi nyoto ta lama sangye do ne do wa chi kya ma le pa e salam we ba. Or we also dedicate all the virtues to actualize true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and wisdom, reliance, and emptiness within our mind stream of all sentient beings as quick as possible. Those who have already actualized, not to diminish, but increase more and more. Chanjo sen cho rinpo che ma ke pa na ke kyo che ke wa nyam pa me pa kong le kong do pe wa. We also dedicate all our virtues for all those who are not feeling well physically, emotionally, mentally, to be healed and cured from all the illness as soon as possible, including their causes. And for all sentient beings to have healthy and happy life. And we also dedicate all the virtues for those all sentient beings who are having obstacles in their life, whatever those obstacles are, to be pacified all the obstacles and cause of all those obstacles immediately. And to be able to find the perfect solution to the problems, the obstacles. And for their all wishes to be fulfilled according to Dharma. Temporary and ultimate wishes. We also dedicate all the virtues for everyone who have died, wherever they are now, to be free from all the fear, suffering, cause of suffering. Have perfect human rebirth, meet the Dharma, actualize the Dharma within their mind, and achieve enlightenment. We also dedicate all the virtues for the long life existence of the Lama, Lama Sabaramaja, all the gurus, all the holy beings. To have perfect health, good health, live long as the samsara exists. And may all their incredible noble deeds, project, wishes be fulfilled without any obstacles. May we never be separated from them in this life, in the Pardo, in all future lives, until we achieve enlightenment. And may we be under their guidance, care all the time. And may we be able to please their mind, holy mind, by following their advices and instructions and applying in our everyday life. Tangri Rawe Kowe Shingam De Tentang Dewa Malu Chungwe Ne Chere Senwa Tenzi Gyatso Ye Shabe Site Padu Tenju Che Tu Tzu Chang Shin Chang Gen Jawe Ten Zin Jong Bewe Kun Su Topo Zhe Cho Song Kowe Le Mo Tu Tu Pa Da So Du Je Guen Du Sha Ten. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. So that is this morning. Thank you.
So, will you give names for new people? Or is they come up with this? Or can you come up and make up them?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You have pen?
So yes, a pen. Once you took really a refuge day for the very first time. Yes, I have. Yeah. Yeah. And so and
What happened this one?
always over and over. Sorry, what's that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, please. I just over here for you. So what you can do is you can come down. Please. Just that.
Thank you. And
Just put it in your
so this is a blessing string from one of my teachers, the Gandhi Rinpoche. He is the head of the Gilliplinis. So you can put here or hand, whatever. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And then you can come in here. So you have to tell us your new name.
Okay. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So this.
Is my name.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you. So this is the blessing code is from Ganden Rinpoche. So Ganden Rinpoche is the head of the lineage and one of my main teachers. Okay.
Very special.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Okay. This I'm not here. This can be gone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you. Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So maybe those who take the refuge, maybe they want to take pictures together.
Yes, please. We would like to see the friends here. And there's online.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm sorry. So I'm thinking, I think Daryl
Mhm.
and I think Sandra, but she's not there right now. Lynette, I'm not sure. Daryl, did you just take a refuge first? Yes. Okay. And did you just take refuge too, Lynette, first time? Yes. Oh, no, just renew. Yeah, renewing. And Jen renewing. Sandra was, but I'm not sure where she's gone. But anyway, I guess I can send a blessing
Yes.
code. Or
Okay.
can send blessing codes for you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I put that
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Lovely. So okay, so maybe we can sit on the front. Yeah.
Yes, some can sit, some can sit here. How many of?
It's just 4, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
4 brand new.
Okay.
And then we could have a big group one if you like, you know. Today's the day. Okay. Might have to sit in quite close.
Yeah, Money, you want to come in? Yeah.
If she had a collar, I would, but she won't wear a collar. Okay. Sit down, Money. Moving, maybe yes. Online as well. Okay, thank you. Maybe you can. It was sorry.
Now we have a movie. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Does everybody want to have a photo now today? We'll probably have more at the end of the course, but everyone might not be here. So is that all right? Yes, should we do that in here?
Okay.
What I might do, I think it's okay if I can move this. I don't think it will hurt the camera. People want to sit up. That's all. All right, I think. Oh, it's not.
I guess probably they don't need. Do they need now?
Yeah, they're still watching. They're still with us.
Okay.
Okay. No, I'm taking photos.
Now, come on, Lindy.
Oh, sorry. Okay. What's it on my chair?
My iPad's there, if you give some.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Whoa.
We're having a good photo.
Yeah.
You all can move in.
You can get up.
Plenty of people here to help.
It's my time.
Yeah,
I can't really.
maybe it might be better. Stand up. Nobody's staying. Yeah.
That's it. I'm a bit short. You all right?
Hide my belly.
How'd you balance?
I'll come in here.
You found it. You got to work together.
No pride in it.
Or maybe going in and finding that.
Grab my shoulder.
That's good.
See you.
Okay, now I have everything.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Take a couple in case. They're no good.
So yak cheese.
Yeah, cheese. Oh. Oh, they are very strong.
Too strong.
Yeah, for me too, sometimes.
What about the chewy ones?
Chewy ones.
Ones that are hanging on a rope.
Oh,
So cheese, so dry.
some of them are quite hard. Yeah, some of them last very long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Peter.
Thank you, everyone.
But it is well.
Well done.
Thank you. Is it raining? Yeah.
So I guess it's time for our potluck picnic lunch inside. It'll probably be inside. I think it was very nice. Just this one giving the Refuge Jewels and light rain as well. Yeah. So, but we might have rain over there for a bit too. So anyway,
But it's good for the planet.
that's right. That's right.
Very auspicious.
So
Yeah.
so now we're just so now we're just going to, I'm just going to say now because it's online as well. Good, thank you. Do again. You have to do it again.
I have to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very, very developed. So lucky.
Okay, so we resume at 2 o'clock for everybody online. Hope to see you then. So thank you for joining.
It is, no, it is not on.
Oh, so it's also can come through. This.
Oh, okay.
So you can maybe wait for them just so they know they're going.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
bye.
Okay. No,
I did wave already.
Oh, sorry. There they are.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for joining.
Thank
See you
you.
soon.
See you soon.
Sorry.
So the topic subjects for the discussions is developing good heart, through accumulation of merit or positive potentials. In one of the sutras, Buddha explained that all your wishes will be fulfilled, whether it's spiritual wishes or is ordinary worldly wishes. Will be fulfilled when you have enough merit, merit virtues, positive energy, whatever you call it, So importance of the merit. And sometimes, even though it feel like from the worldly ordinary point of view, sometimes it feel like things should work, because it's from worldly point of view, every cause and condition are there to make it happen, to success some things. But sometimes it doesn't always happen, and sometimes we cannot really explain much. Sometimes because you are unlucky, it was a wrong time, or some things, but sometimes, it's because of lack of internal cause and condition. There is external cause and condition, and then internal cause or condition is our own virtues, our own merit that also play a role in accomplishing or success in whatever. And same with our spiritual growth, Sometimes we do the practice meditations and not necessarily wrong, but just doing correctly, rightly, how it should be done, as instructed, as advised. But still sometimes we face blockage to make any progress. Somehow there is something that does not, lead us to progress, And again, sometimes it's due to lack of the merit, The merit is the conducive conditions, So due to not enough of conducive conditions, So then that's why the spiritual realizations, the the plant or the flower or the fruit of the spiritual realizations are unable to produce, because due to lack of conducive condition, the merit. So merit is, the role that it plays is creating the conducive conditions. In our ordinary experiences, as well as in our spiritual experiences. And that is why not only you need to meditate and contemplate on whatever topic subject that you do in order to have the spiritual realization or experience. While you do that practice meditation, you also need to create enough merit so that there is a better conducive conditions for that meditation, that contemplation, that practice to become more successful. When you don't have that conducive conditions, that merit, then even when you are trying to meditate correctly, sometimes you are unable to make the progress. So whether it is developing the wisdom or whether it is developing the good heart of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, the merit also play a big role. So therefore, in Buddhism, especially in Mahayana and Vajrayana, there's an approach, holistic approach in your practice meditations. Holistic approach is that, it's not just one. It's just not just the meditations of that particular topic. Meditation, accumulation of merit, purifications, all come when you have all these coming together, then you have more success in your practice, in your meditations. Just like if you are trying to plant, whatever plant you are trying to plant, to have a better success in the growth of the plant and produce whatever fruit, flowers, whatever, it's not the seed. That seed is very important to have the really good seed, but also you need other conditions, conducive conditions for that seed to grow. You have to create that. And without that, good soil, without the water, without the other conducive condition that it needs, even just having the good seed cannot produce the result well. And so that is where the merit comes, And of course, there are so many different ways of creating marriage, so many different practice, so many different ways of creating marriage, making offering to the holy object, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, practicing generosity, charity to those who are in need, Creating holy objects, whether it's a statues, whether it is a, printing a Dharma books, whether it is creating a other form of holy image, is another powerful way of creating merit. The offerings of, all kinds of offerings, the offering of water bowls, the offering of mandala, and all other form of offerings. They are very powerful way of creating marriage. rejoicing in your own virtues and virtues of others is another powerful practice to create marriage. As Lama Tsongkhapa, one of the great Tibetan master, as he said, rejoicing in the virtues of others and yourself, is a very powerful way of creating merit without so much physical hardship. Some practice requires some physical hardship, but rejoicing doesn't require any physical hardship. It's just a mental practice. When you see someone doing something virtuous, something good, instead of feeling jealousy, you rejoice them. Be happy with that. How wonderful that person is, so kind, compassionate, generous, being very virtuous. Rejoicing, and also rejoicing in our virtues. Then also we multiply our virtues. Rejoicing in other virtues, we create a lot of merit. And then also cultivating, good heart, or loving kindness, compassion. Bodhicitta mind is also very powerful tools to accumulate merit. Purifications as well as accumulate merit. There is a story of, a Sangha, one of the great Indian masters, who wrote a lot of the teachings on how to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, especially the method, side. He was in meditations in order to have a visions of the material Buddha. He wanted to have the vision of material Buddha so that he can, receive teachings and like that, So he went into retreat in the cave for 12 years, But he didn't have that vision. He wouldn't see the material, First he went, I don't remember all the sequences exactly. One time he went for 3 years or 4 years, and then he didn't have any signs of any vision or seeing. He gave up. He came, and then he saw, water dropping, tick, rock, and saw a hole in that rock. And that hole is made by this dropping water over the, I don't know how many years it might took, It could have been 100,000, millions, but just one drop of water, tick, tick, tick at the same place, in same rock, very hard rocks has formed a hole with that. It gives him courage. If a drop of water can create such a hole in such a very rock, I should not give up. I should continue. So then again he went. And then again he did, the practice meditation for 3-4 years. I think maybe it was 4 years each of time. I think it was 3 times. And then again, he didn't see any progress, or he didn't saw any kind of sign of what he was trying to accomplish, any vision and seeing of that. And again, he come and give up, And then he saw someone, kind of cut the rock with a thread, You keep on doing like that same rock again and again. And then with the time, it creates. So again, normally when you take a small rope and it's impossible to cut, But when you repeat that, you stop giving up. You repeat that again and again with the time, even with such diligent, that it can cut even the very hard rocks. Again, it give him similar inspiration, courage. Again, he went back. Oh yeah, so it is 3 times 4. And then again, after 3 years, he didn't see any signs. He come back, and then he was almost ready to give up. And then again, he saw, the pigeons. There are some pigeons that live in that same cave, and they keep on going, coming, flying, and there is a small window area from where they fly. And because of constant coming and going, and each time they come and go with their feather, it brush the side of the rocks. And with that brush, it has softened and smoothened and all. And it is just that, touching and rub again and again with that feather. Again, it gives him some motivations, inspiration. Again, he went back. And finally, after 12 years, then he had the vision. He saw the material. And then he says, how come, material, you have no compassions? I have to wait 12 years. I have to wait 12 years and all this hardship. How come you don't have compassion? How come you don't show compassion, mercy on me, And Maitreya said, I was always there. I was always there. And he, our Sanghas have to believe that, to believe that he was always there, and for him to not see it, And he said, I will always, you used to spit on me. But it was hard for. Oh, before that, now again, I'm sorry, I missed the important part, and why I was telling about this story. Then again, again 4 more years, and he didn't have the vision. He didn't see it, and so he came, give up. And then, as he was coming out of the cave, he saw a dog which has been wounded, all part of the legs, and full of maggots, And he feels so compassionate, to see the suffering and the pain of the dog that was totally wounded, in a lot of pain with all maggot. So he feels extremely strong compassion, and he wanted to help the dog, to get rid of, to heal and but also he didn't want to harm the maggot, because he also knows that those are another sentient beings. So he also felt compassion for, not only for the dog, for also them. So he was thinking, how can he help them without harming, or without taking the life of maggot? And because so if he put his hand, it could die, vigilant. And so, so out of that compassion, I think one part I'm not remembering clearly, whether he cut some part of his flesh and on footing on that flesh or something. And then, he closed his eyes and lick the magnet, so that you don't squash them. And the moment he did that, then he saw the material. And that is when material appeared to him, or he saw the material at that moment. And that is where he says, how come that you didn't show before? And he said, because of your own obscurations, and not enough merit conducive conditions, that you were unable to see me, but I was always there. And so again, for Asanga, it was kind of hard to believe him that. And so the Maitreya says, if you don't believe me, take me in the town, And so he took him, Maitreya, on his back and went to town, and nobody saw anything, They didn't see him carrying a Maitreya, and there was one person, who has less obscuration and better merit, saw only the feet, not the whole body, And so that is, at least that is the story, okay? And then Asanga received a lot of teaching from Maitreya, and a lot of his teaching that he wrote is based on the teaching he received from the Maitreya, So that is the point when he started to cultivate that incredible compassion. That is when he created a lot of merit and able to purify a lot of obscurations. And through purifying the obscuration and creating a lot of merit, then he was able to see it and accomplish what he wanted to accomplish, to have the vision and to be able to see Maitreya and to be able to receive the teachings. And so that is his compassion. The moment of compassion was so powerful, True compassion in that moment was so powerful to purify and accumulate the merit. So that was where I was talking about the compassions, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta means one of the most powerful practice to accumulate merit and purify obscurations. Also in one of the sutra, Buddha said, if you make, offerings of 7 kinds of precious jewels, or precious metals like gold, silver, diamond, and like that, 7 special of that to the Buddhas, as number at the sand of the river Ganges, is countless. As the sand grain of that, as to number of that, from 3 times a day for many, many months, how much merit you create is unimaginable, inexpressible. But a moment of cultivating a loving kindness create more merit than that, the merit you create from that. That is what the Buddha explained. So if we believe, then, sometimes it's a little bit kind of hard for us to grasp exactly how, but so that is how, the powerful way of accumulating merit is with our own mind. Of course, there are many, many different ways of accumulating merit. I mentioned different practices. But, so, but problem, and also with the bodhicitta mind or loving kindness, compassion is very powerful to accumulate merit, because as Shandeva explained, in his guide the Buddha's way of life, that good heart or loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind is like an alchemy that can transform all the metal into the gold. Alchemy, alchemy, yeah, it's like that, And so again, with the bodhicitta motivation or loving kindness and compassion, both motivation, that's such a good heart. Whatever we engage into, whatever activities we engage into, we can transform all this into the virtues. Normally our walking is not a virtue, neither non-virtues. It's just a neutral act, walking, jogging, running, walking, your gardening, all of that. But if we do all of that with bodhicitta motivation, through compassion and motivation, loving kindness motivation, then all these acts become virtues. Even driving becomes virtues with that mind. Even walking become. So when all your activities become virtuous, then each moment you are creating so much merit. 24 hours you are creating merit. Even while sleeping, you are creating merit. And so by being able to create merit, then again, it becomes making it easier to achieve enlightenment, close to enlightenment. So that is as Shantideva explained, that is how powerful that is, the good heart in terms of creating merit. And same things, he gave an example of different virtues, Many of the other virtues are like a planetary tree, like banana trees, Once one trunk produces the banana fruit, next year that trunk doesn't produce anymore, It's only one time. It produces the fruit, the result only one time. That is most of our virtues. We create the virtues and we experience the result of that virtues, and then it's done. But the good heart of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind is like what I call the other plant, like apple plants that produce fruit every year. It's like that, you plant one time and then not one time, it continue to produce the fruit every year for how long, even maybe 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, And such is bodhicitta, the good heart of bodhicitta mind, You continue to experience the result of that virtuous mind and that virtues endlessly until you achieve enlightenment. Until you achieve enlightenment. And therefore, it is so powerful way to create virtues of merit continuously, continuously. So that you don't experience the result of that, does not exhaust by experiencing one time of that result. And then, he tried to explain that from the logical point of view, from the scriptural point of view, from many different sutra sources, and from a religion point of view. He gave you one example of if we have a good thought, positive thought, okay, when someone is having some headache, and if you had a strong compassionate wish, wanting to see that person being free from that headache. It's a positive thought, good thought, virtuous thought. And by having that virtuous thought, you create a virtuous mind, virtuous energy, merit. But if you have that same feeling for 10 persons, then your virtues multiply by 10. Before it was just one person, now you feel that for 10 people. 10 people have headache, and you feel same amount of compassions, the wish to see them free from their whatever sufferings, that 10. And then it will multiply 100,000 billions, more and more. And so when we are bodhicitta mind, we have that feeling for all sentient beings, which is numberless. And not only we wish them to be free from one problem, but all the problems. Every problem and cause of every problem and of each and every sentient being, then you can see the magnitude of that virtuous mind, the power of that. And so therefore, that is why one can create so powerful, very powerful merit and virtues in one moment of that, by developing that one moment of that good heart of bodhicitta mind. Therefore, the Katamba masters, they used to say, if you want to purify, cultivate the bodhicitta mind, because it is the most powerful way to purify. If you want to accumulate merit, practice the bodhicitta mind, because it's the most powerful way to accumulate merit. So, but again, as much as it's powerful, first we need to have the bodhicitta mind. Once we have the bodhicitta mind, then we can use that bodhicitta mind to purify, accumulate, and become strong, powerful. But how can we develop bodhicitta mind? That bodhicitta mind. In order to cultivate that bodhicitta mind, first we need to cultivate, great compassions, true great compassion and loving kindness. So the good heart of loving kindness, compassion. In order to develop that kind of loving kindness, compassions, we need to contemplate, meditate, practice, and meditation that is supported by other conditions, by creating merit, by receiving the blessings, and purifying. And through that, then we try to contemplate, meditate, and develop the true loving kindness and compassion, the good heart of true loving kindness and compassion. So, and the good heart of loving kindness, compassion is, it's a key for our happiness and key for happiness of others. Yeah, the protector. Our protector. Is it? So, the loving kindness and compassion, the good heart of loving kindness and compassion is key for our own inner strength, inner peace, inner happiness, self-confidence, And it is the key for the happiness of our family. Peace, happiness and peace of our families, our friends, the world, the society, the country that we live in, the world we live in. And most of the problem that we experience in the world on global level, as the whole world, within the countries, and on our family level, on individual level, is due to the lack of true love and compassion. A lot of problems, most of problem due to that lack of true love and compassion. If we have true love and compassion, even when we have differences, we can still find a way, solution to those differences without being so, harsh on each other. And when we don't have love and compassion, then, we just need small differences and we fight over it. And the small differences become a source of big conflict. Source of big, not because of the different idea itself, not because of different view itself, but because it's due to lack of true love and compassion. A lot of time we think, oh, it's due to the differences, our different policy, different view, different ideas to solve whatever problem it is. We feel that but it's not that. If there is some person who love each other, who really have compassion to each other, they can always find a way out, even those differences, without hurting each other, without harming each other. We can always find a solution that works for both, without hurting and harming each other. But when there's no true sense of love and compassion to each other, then we fight over that. And that is the problem. That is the problem. When you don't have true love and compassion, then we know we don't have respect to each other. We don't treat respectfully, And then when we don't treat someone respectfully, then we get hurt. And when we get hurt, then we started to feel bitter and bad about the other person. And then, that feeling becomes the cause of the conflict. That feeling is the one that led to the conflict, not necessarily just the view itself. Feeling of this being hurt, harm, and at the moment, we are unable to have, respectful disagreement, respectful differences, because we become very egoistic, mine is right, mine is the correct, yours not right. you know. But when you have true love and compassion with that person, you have less egoistic mind, you know. And when you don't have that so strong egoistic mind, you know, then, you know, you respect the others' different views, different ideas. And when you treat others respectfully with the love and compassion, the other person can understand and feel that. And when they feel that, they don't get hurt. And when there is no feeling of hurt, then, you know, there's no condition, there's no cause for the conflict. We can always figure out where we can find a way to it without hurting and harming. So that is the key for, you know, to be able to work peacefully in harmony in a better way without conflict. And that is the key, you know. I was sharing, you know, there was time when I used to think, you know, if every citizen of this world were educated with the modern educations, the world would be a better place. I was naive. I was naive. That is not the case. You know, some of the conflicts are created by some of the most educated people. You know, some of the sufferings are being created by some of the most educated in terms of modern educations. You know, that doesn't necessarily makes, you know, person better. It makes them more smarter, but not necessarily more kind, compassionate, better person. And I think the problem in the world is that there's so much energy is focused on producing smart people, not necessarily warm-hearted, good persons. And sometimes that is the problem. That is the, you know, at school, maybe they don't emphasize the importance of love, compassion, those qualities. The emphasis is much given on how to do good in those different fields, mathematics, science, or whatever, different fields that you learn, how to be good at those, how to do good at that. Also, sometimes at home, the family also doesn't put so much emphasis on the importance of being a compassionate, kind, loving. Emphasize that you have to do good at this, your studies, you have to do good at that, you have to get good mark, you have to do good at this, and everyone's from everywhere, that's what they get, the children's. And then, you know, they don't learn this core and getting, you know, not in touch with their good heart, loving kindness, compassion, you know. And then, you know, that become a problem. Or then we see the problem on individual level and on collectively as a society. And, you know, also it is true, you know, someone who is very kind, compassionate, caring person, and someone who is not kind, compassionate, caring, who is too much selfish, I'm sure when you try to look in yourself, what do you feel about yourself? There's a difference. Someone who is loving, compassion, caring, they feel good about themselves when they look inside. They feel good when someone is fully selfish and who doesn't have that kind of love, compassion, they might be scared to look themselves. They don't want to look themselves. If they started themselves, they might start to hate themselves. They're afraid to look in themselves. And that is what true love, compassion gives self-confidence. Self-confidence. On the other side, when we don't have love, compassion, but too much self-centered, too much selfish, we started to, hate ourselves, seeing, and it can low self-esteem, lose self-confidence, maybe even self-hatred. Not only yourself in that way, then it reflects on what you see others. Then you think, everyone is selfish like me. Everyone must be like me, selfish. And then you start to doubt other people. Lose trust in others. Confidence in others. On the other hand, someone who has so much love and compassion, when they look at others, they also know they are also same human being like me. They must also be kind, compassion. Just like me. They have more trust, confidence in others. They have better image of others. They have better image of themselves and better image of others. And therefore, when you have better image of others, you can communicate better. You can have a better communication with more trust, more respect, and you have better relationship. And that, affect your well-being. It affect well-being of others, everyone's. So that is why the good heart of loving kindness, compassion is, source of self-confidence, courage, inner strength, and peace and happiness. And that is, from Buddhist point of view, that is, that goodness, the warm heartedness, good heart of loving kindness, compassion is actually the very basic nature of our human beings, all sentient beings. The Buddhas explain that we all have what they call Buddha nature. That we all have the potential to become fully awakened, fully enlightened. Everyone has that potential. On fundamental level, we have that goodness. That's who we are, the goodness. On fundamental level, if we are so goodness with love and compassion, how we end up becoming not so good sometime, or a lot of time. Because, as we grow, we gather so much informations. And then that creates kind of, blanket towards our basic goodness. And then we get less and less in touch with our that goodness. And that is the reasons, even though we are by nature that goodness. And even there are some, research that have shown, that how basic human nature altruistic, especially they did research with the young children because they are more closer to their nature. We have lost with our basic nature as we grow up. But when you are a child, you are more closer to your basic nature because you haven't been, influenced by what you hear, what you see, or all of this. So you are more closer to your basic nature. So they did with, especially everyone, but especially focus on the children, especially focus on the younger children below 2-year children, experimenting even with the children who cannot speak, who are like 6 months, by showing different image, how they express, when someone is hurting and harming someone, or when someone is helping someone, and how they express, even though they cannot express verbally, but you can see from their expressions what they are, And like one children trying to help another children to push something. When they see that, they light up, And when they see an image of another being bullying or hurting someone, they become kind of expression of sadness, no joy. And that is how they, so even from those research, it shows. And they not only they did that, they also did some research on chimpanzees, because chimpanzees are closely to human beings in terms of brain. And again, that was what they found, the chimpanzee and the monkeys, how they respond when they feed both of them, when they can see each other being feed each other, and then how they respond when they feed one and they don't feed the other one, even though that is being fed, but when his friend is not being fed, how he responds, So through, there is extensive research that has been done also that indicate also how our basic nature is altruistic. I guess that is hopeful sign, that is just mean we just need to get in touch with that. We need to get in touch of that. How can we get in touch of that? It's through meditation practice. We go back to that. And try to keep watering that, nurturing that, nurturing that. So, cultivating such good heart, warm heart, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind is so crucial, so important, so crucial for our own personal, mental good health, and also physical good health. Also, there are always many research that shows by meditating on compassion, even 10 minutes each day, only for a certain period of time, the differences that it has on your physical level. In terms of reducing the stress and many other things, blood sugar and many other things, of course, not only on mental level, like when they did the research, whenever they asked meditator to meditate on loving kindness, compassion, and again you can see they're just even the physical expression, they are happy and smiling, just the physical showing that they were happy when they are in that state of mind. They see the expression, physical expressions of how it go up, like smiling, when they ask someone to meditate on that, and just show that. So through that, again, they can see, you are more happy and peace when you really meditate on that on personal level. Yes. So that is on personal level, individual level, there's more happiness, more calm, peaceful in your mind. And also on physical level, it helps your well-being, And of course, when you are more loving, more compassionate, more caring, it creates a better environment in your family. Who doesn't like to be loved and caring? We all want to be loved and care. The only thing is we don't want to love and care. We want others to love us and care. We're happy, How come you are not loving, caring? But when it comes to ourselves, it feels like you don't deserve love. You don't deserve caring. You are not worthy of love, caring. But when it comes to us, we don't think that way. Feel like everyone should love us. Everyone should be nice to us. Everyone should like us. Basically what I'm saying, everyone wants to be loved and care. When there's including money. So when you are more loving, caring, then also there is more harmony, peace, and better interaction in family. There's better, more happiness in the families. And if there's, different families who are more kind, compassion, caring among the neighbor, there will be a neighbor that is more kind, compassion, harmonious, peaceful, helping each other, not trying to hurt and harm each other. When there's more of those kind of neighborhood, then, there's the state that is more kind, compassion, caring. When there's many more state of that, then there's that country. When there's more country of that, then the world become more loving, kind, compassion, caring, and helping each other. And of course, we all like to see that, but we don't want to start ourselves. Sometimes we want to see the world become compassionate world, kind, caring world. But are we putting effort to create that ourselves? Because everyone things have to start from yourself. We start to be more kind, compassionate, caring. Because we can be more compassionate, more kind, more caring. It's not asking you to do something that is not possible or that you don't have capacity. And that loving kindness, compassion, caring, not only for good for others, it's for your own goodness too. It helps everyone. So that is so that is how it can affect individual to collectively, change your experience and change the experience of the world that we live in. If we put effort to develop that love and compassion. And also, when you have that true love and compassion, and when other person feel that love and compassion, care, it can be a great healing for a lot of people. A lot of peoples who have different problems in their life, sometimes emotional, mental problems. And sometimes they end up because they never felt love and compassion. And when passion, they respond differently. They start to have change from being more violent, aggressive to less violent, less aggressive, and being even kind and compassionate. How someone's cultivating love, compassion, and the other person to be able to feel that, transform and change another person's. The potential of that love and compassion to change not only your own experience, change in the experience of others for goodness, for betterness. And then, of course, we will talk from spiritual point of view, then, of course, without the loving kindness, compassion, there's no bodhicitta. Without the bodhicitta, there's no way to enter the Bodhisattva path. Without entering the Bodhisattva path, there's no way to achieve fully enlightened state, fully awakened state. Without the bodhicitta mind, your practice of generosity doesn't become perfection of generosity. Your practice of moral discipline doesn't become practice of perfection of discipline, and so forth. And without the bodhicitta mind, no matter how much, whatever virtues you engage into, they do not really become cause of fully enlightenment. They can be cause of individual liberation, but it cannot. So, that the good heart of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta is a key. And that is the very center of all the Buddha's teaching. Is the very, the whole Buddhist practice and philosophy is rooted in that the good heart of loving kindness, compassion. And based on that loving kindness, compassion, then we try to engage into our behavior that is more non-violent, peaceful, kind. Being helpful, if not helpful, not hurting and harming others. Why that? Because it's again because of that sense of compassion, not wanting to hurt and harm any beings. And if we can die with loving kindness, compassion, if you can die with loving kindness, compassion, you don't have to worry about the futures. What holds for you, you don't have to worry. You don't have to have any fear. You don't have to worry. Your future is taken care of. No doubt, if you can die with that kind of good heart of loving kindness, compassion. So, this good heart of loving kindness, compassion is so beneficial, helpful while you are alive at the time of death. Instead of feeling bitter, upset and angry with others or your own situation or whether with yourself, instead, if we can die peaceful, if we have that kind of love, compassion, then we can die peacefully without all this bitterness, without any feeling of bitterness towards either yourself, situation, or others. Instead, to be able to, and then, you can have very peaceful transition and death. And with that kind of peaceful transition, death, with that kind of loving kindness, compassion, then, also you don't have to be fearful and wary what might hold you after that. Whether you believe in anything after that or not, you don't have to be any fearful wary. If there is something continuity of that, you are already taken care of because of that loving kindness, compassion mind at that time. So that is the importance of cultivating that good heart. Okay, so I think maybe we'll have a break. Okay, 10-minute break.
Thank you, Sean.
So maybe I want to ask with the questions. Matthew, you want to ask questions?
Yeah, thank you, Bishop. So it is very inspiring talk on good heart, and just want to ask. So generating a good heart, I think it resonates with people because, like you say, we have a basic goodness, so it resonates with everybody, and it's not unique to Buddhism. That most religions teach the good heart in some way. But my question was, within Buddhism, really we want to free beings from samsara. So my question was whether you need to develop the realization of renunciation of samsara first before you can develop bodhicitta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I think loving kindness, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, I think is kind of is taught in most of the major spiritual path religions. It's kind of common theme or practice or teachings that you see similarity in that. Of course, one of the uniqueness in Buddhism about that is, I think in Buddhism they teach not only you need to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, but how to do it, that technique, the meditations that probably you might not see or find in some other spiritual path. So there is that part. Actually, there is a kind of particular technique or meditation, how to do that. And then, in order to have bodhicitta, of course, we need to have not just compassion, but what we call great compassions. And great compassions mean that, this true unconditional, true compassions to each and every sentient beings. Not just few. You can have compassion, true compassion for few, but then you need to go beyond that to be a great compassion, to be able to feel that same to each and every sentient beings. And without that great compassion without great compassion, the feeling of compassion is an essential, then of course one cannot have bodhicitta mind. And without the bodhicitta mind, then definitely we cannot overcome, the subtle obscuration. We cannot achieve fully enlightenment. And in order to have the great compassion, then it is to have compassion itself, not necessarily the need for renunciations, to develop renunciation first. But in order to have a great compassion, I think it feels like you need to have the renunciations. Renunciations is, that you are not attached to only the pain and suffering, which most people are not attached to real pain and suffering, obviously. The suffering of what we call suffering of pain. We try to avoid suffering or pain. Everyone try to avoid that. Even the animals try to avoid that. Even the animal recognize that is suffering. And they try to avoid that. And they try to find a way to reduce and release that pain and sufferings. So renouncing that is not a difficult. We are not attached to that. We renounce, we try to avoid that. Next, there is idea of, in Buddhism, the suffering of change. And that is more difficult to renounce that for us. Suffering of change are those, samsaric, samsaric pleasure. To us, it feels like they are pleasure. But in real, if you go more deeper level, they are not true happiness. They are not true pleasure. They are not true happiness. Even though sometimes we feel like they are happiness, all those feelings, all this happiness, a lot of them transform into suffering after some time. When you are hungry, you eat it, you feel good, great, you overeat it, and then you start to feel bad, and it turns into sufferings, from happiness to suffering by eating. When you're too cold, you go in the sun, it feels warm, nice. If you stay too long, start to burn out, it becomes suffering, and you want to go inside. And most of our experience, what we call happiness, is like that. They change into their sufferings. After some time, that means they are not true happiness, real true happiness. Sometimes, even they don't change into that, it doesn't last. It doesn't last forever. It's gone. There's one moment and it's gone. So again, so that is what we call suffering of change. According to some explanations, it says, like they are not happiness by nature. They're not happiness by nature, but you feel like happiness or pleasure because it's less painful than something which is more painful before. That is the only reason you feel is happiness, because it was less painful than what you were experiencing before. It's interesting, that is why they call suffering of change, why it is by nature is, it talk about, for example, the example will be, you have been jogging or running or doing a lot of exercise for long time. Your body is tired, you know. When you sit, you find a place to sit, it gives you, you know, some kind of relief, nice feeling to be able to sit, pleasure, joyful, kind of joyfulness. Just being able to sit. But that is because you have been exercising, walking, or jogging so hard, you feel so much tired and pain from that, and now sitting seems less painful of that. So you feel joy, but sitting itself is not a happiness. If you have been sitting before you do that, you don't feel the same way. If it is happiness by itself, by sitting, even before you start jogging or exercise, you should feel the same way when you're just sitting. You know? Not, you know. You might feel even more pain in your butt. That is what I'm trying to, that's now what I'm feeling when I'm traveling. Long flight, you know. Feel like, you know, your butt doesn't have any flesh. It's all bone, you know. After some time, it feels like I have to feel even like this. Is there any kind of flesh, you know? Or is it only bone? Just by sitting itself, if it is a pleasure, then by sitting in those long flights, I should have a lot of pleasure. It isn't. It isn't. But if I have been doing, I said, rigorous exercise and I'm feeling tired, and if I sit on same seat, I might feel very relief, very peace, happy. And because the pain that I was experiencing by doing too much or strong exercise is less now there. Therefore, I feel that way. By nature, it's not happiness. It is a very interesting to look, you know, that is how, you know, Lama Tsongkhapa in his Lamrim Chemo, he explains the suffering of change from that perspective. With that, and if you really think about it, it makes a sense. It makes a sense. And so, you know, so because not understanding, they are actually not true happiness, and actually they are in nature suffering, we don't understand. So therefore we're attached to the experience. Therefore we run after those experiences. Instead of renouncing it, we get attached to those experiences. And we get attached to anything that produce such experiences. You know. So our life is how to experience those experiences and how to accumulate things that produce those experiences. And keep on getting disappointed again and again. Again, run again and again, chase again and again, get something and again get disappointed, and keep, you know, that is what, and so that is what suffering of change in Buddhism, when they talk about suffering of change. In some, you know, is also the translation, suffering of dissatisfactions, meaning, you know, that such experience cannot really produce true happiness, you know, lasting happiness. You know, it can only lead you to more dissatisfied, you know. And so we are unable to renounce us. We are actually attached to that. And then suffering of what we call all pervasive, you know, and that means, you know, that our life being under the control of another energy or power of contaminated karma and the delusions. You know, we think we are running our life, We think we are running our life. Seems like we have total control. That might not be the case. You know, there are forces that, you know, want to go this way. We push very hard to go this way, and some force take us this way. You know, it's like you try to drive this way and the wind blow the other side. You have no control. We think we have control and we're trying to drive straight, but there's some wind energy that kind of make, you know, drive you on the other opposite side. You know. Not having total control over our own life, our own mind, our own experience. Instead, being under the influence control of certain energy of karma and the delusion, that itself is a suffering. When we become the slave of something, that is suffering. Being the slave of the delusion and karma is much more worse than physical slave, being a physical slave. No. When you're in prison physically, still you can find mental peace, even in such circumstances. But when you become prisoner of our delusions, we cannot find mental peace. You know. And when you become prisoner, or even, you know, on you know, physical level, it's a suffering. You know, nobody wants to be in prison. You know, by choice. You know, at least in that in prison, no matter how bad that prison is, at least with your own mind, you can still be able to find peace. But when we become the slave prisoner of our own afflicted emotion, our own delusion, there's never real peace and happiness. That itself is real suffering. And that is the cause of other two suffering. That delusions, the energy of the delusion and karma is the one that produces the suffering of change, suffering of pain. You know. So also, at the moment, we are not totally renouncing that, even suffering all pervasive. Again, we don't understand it is a suffering. You know, at the moment, we don't understand. Actually, at the moment, we're actually a prisoner and slave of the delusions and karma. Not understanding that, that's why we don't try to get out of that. So we don't feel urgency to get out of that. We don't feel, you know, if you are put in prisons, physical prison, you know it is a prison, you will try all your best to get out of there in whatever way you can. You know, call every help, everything you need to call, do everything that you have capacity to get out of there. But at the moment, when it comes to our own affective emotion delusion, we don't feel that kind of same urgency you will feel you are in physical prison. You don't feel that you need to gather all the forces to get out of that, because we haven't really understood that we're actually real prisoner of our own delusions.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Geshe, oftentimes I talk to people and, you know, they say, Buddhists, you're always complaining about suffering. And I say, yeah, it's so evident that you just try to concentrate on one thing for 5 minutes and you can't, because your mind goes all over the place. You're not in control. That's this part of this all-pervasive suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, yeah. So it's just when I considered that, you know, like Yeah, you're not even in control of your own mind. You can't direct it anywhere for any length of time. It just runs off by itself.
Mhm.
That's, usually people start, oh, yeah, I never thought of that. But it seems to be that is suffering in itself, that you can't control your own thinking.
I think one of the problem with this is, the word is suffering itself. Is sometimes, therefore, a lot of teachers will not use the suffering, the word. They might just use the Pali or Sanskrit, the dukkha, because in general language, when we see suffering, people only think of suffering of the pain, physical or emotional pain. That's what they think of when they have the image, when you hear the suffering. And of course, our life is not only about that, of that physical or emotional pain. And when we describe here suffering, it's not just that one. That is only one part, one kind of suffering we are describing, And so I think that is one of the problems, the language. I think sometimes the language become a problem for misunderstanding and misinterpreting that when we talk about sufferings,